Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the June 10th Planning Board meeting. Have a pretty short agenda, so it should be a pretty quick day, but we will start with, if I can get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, they are approved. Mr. City Attorney?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Today's meeting of the Planning Board will be conducted in a hybrid format with the board physically present at Miami Beach City Hall and applicant, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. To participate virtually, the public may dial 1-877-853-5257 and enter the webinar ID, which is 861-4342-6327#, or log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 861-4342-6327. Anyone wishing to speak on an item must click the raise hand icon or dial *9 if you're participating by phone. If you're appearing on behalf of a business, a corporation, or another person, you need to register as a lobbyist with the City Clerk's office. If you haven't registered yet, you should register before you speak to the board. You don't have to register as a lobbyist if you're speaking only on behalf of yourself and not any other party, or if you're testifying as an expert witness providing only scientific, technical, or other specialized information or testimony in this public meeting, or if you're appearing as a representative of a neighborhood association without any compensation or reimbursement for your appearance, to express support of or opposition to any item. Expert witnesses and representatives of neighborhood associations shall, prior to appearing, disclose in writing to the city clerk their name, address, and the principal on whose behalf they are communicating. If you're an architect, attorney, or employee representing an applicant or an objector, you must register as a lobbyist. These rules apply whether you're appearing in favor of or against an item, or encouraging or arguing against its passage, defeat, modification, or continuance. Lastly, I'd like to swear in any members of the public or staff who will be testifying today. Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with request for continuance. Planning Board filed PB 240661, Commercial Industrial Residential Height and Setback Regulation Modifications.
And good morning, everyone. Actually, this item has been withdrawn, so the board does not need to take any action on PB 24-0661. We'll note that's been withdrawn for the record.
Okay. Next one, Planning Board filed 250747, Vendor Appointments and Land Use Boards.
The city's still working on preparing this ordinance, and we're recommending that, or asking that the board continue this to the July 1st meeting.
July 1, and you'll keep us posted on that meeting, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, next one is Planning Board filed 24.
We do need to take a motion and for the continuance.
Oh, we do? Okay. Someone move to continue this to July?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Jonathan? Yashiel? Okay. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Planning Board filed 240719, 1315 Collins Avenue.
As the board may remember, this was last before you a few months ago, and the board continued it till today in order to see how they were operating. They have since opened up since the board last heard this application. They are still in the process of amending their documents, so I did pass out a letter provided by them. They're going to be updating the request, and they are asking that the application be continued to the September 9th meeting. If you'd like to speak on the application, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much. Can I share with you some pictures or no?
You don't need to share no, we
Okay.
can't. It's fine.
So I wrote a small speech. I'm sorry that we don't have any more like.
So if you could just introduce yourself.
Yeah. Jamil Deep, co-founder of VE Hospitality Group, doing business since '96 here in Miami Beach. So that's my name, and we bought this small, beautiful location called Donatella, which is a boutique hotel and a super high-end Italian restaurant. Last time I couldn't speak because someone mentioned that this is a nightclub because we have a lot of speakers. We don't have a lot of speakers because it's a nightclub. We have a lot of speakers because we don't want to have a high volume on it. And you can Google it and you can go there. Maybe it's the best Italian restaurant, not in Miami, maybe in USA. We have top chefs from everywhere in the planet, top managers. So what we're trying to do, I live in Miami Beach. My kids study in Miami Beach. Yesterday, they stole my car from Miami Beach, no? So we're trying to improve the
That's how
city.
you know you've made it, by the way.
We love the city, no? So we've been working for 30 days, and what we're trying to be like everywhere in the world, like some other countries, no? Removing that tourist trap kind of operation and bringing good quality, because I believe so much in what's happening. So we want to put a little bit of us there. So what we're trying to do is have a music programmer, sometimes a violin. We had it on the grand opening. We asked for a special permit. A lot of people from the city were there. No complaints from the neighbors. So I'm just here to ask you for the favor to, it's part of the experience. It's happening everywhere in the world. Now the people, I think Instagram, it's like those pictures, fake flowers, they're on the past. Now people, they want to have a different experience. I want to have a meal and a violin and something different. The place, it's absolutely beautiful. You can Google it and see the reviews, Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google, like real reviews from real people. So I'm here representing ourselves and
Here,
asking.
Jim, so,
Yeah.
so who's asking for continuance?
No, we can, this cannot be heard today because they have to update their plans, update their application.
Okay, so
right.
what are you, where do
We're
we?
just asking, he's just asking that the board continue the application to the September 9th meeting.
Okay.
That'll give them time to update the plans and the board can hear it then.
I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer, not just asking to continue, that maybe we can start doing.
No,
it.
no. The only thing the board can do today is continue the application. The board cannot vote to approve or discuss the application itself. We're only here to discuss the continuance of the
Okay.
application.
Yeah, and we're happy you told
Thank
us what you said, but in September, you'll come back.
Perfect,
They just want to make sure that everything's operating properly and, you know,
okay.
so put on your calendar the September meeting.
It was 90 days, no?
No, you can continue to the September 9th meeting. That's the date. The board does not meet in August. The board meets
okay.
next.
Right,
in
they
September.
don't meet in
Okay,
August, so.
perfect. So
Okay.
thank you very much, that's
No,
it, and I
thank you
hope
for
that
coming
you
in.
guys can stop by and try the food and see the place, no?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sounds great, and we wish you luck, but we'll see you in September.
God bless you guys.
Okay,
Good luck.
You too.
And before we entertain a motion to continue the application, we just have to take public comment. See if there's any
Okay, is there
public
anyone
comment
here to
and
speak on
request.
this item? Anybody in chambers, anyone in Zoom?
There's nobody on Zoom with their hand
Okay,
raised.
can we get a motion to move
Motion
it to
to continue.
September? Okay, Sheila, can I get a second? Keith? Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll see you in September.
Thank you very
sir.
much, and I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, progress reports. The first one is Planning Board File 230606, 1759 Purdy Avenue and 1724 Bay Road. Tracy? Oh, actually, we need,
Sure, I'll give a
sorry.
brief introduction on this application. So the planning board last reviewed this site on January 30th, where they made modification to the CUP, including increasing the number of restaurant seats and the maximum occupancy load of the establishment. Condition 2 of the CUP requires that the applicant appear before the board after for a progress report after the first BTR is issued to the property. On March 6th, the first BTR was issued for the restaurant and the subject site, so the applicant is before you today based upon that condition of the CUP. The applicant will be, or the property will be back before you within a year, because the CUP also requires that when 75% of the building is in operation, they come back before the board for a progress report specifically related to conditions on the traffic. So we're here before you today just for this standard progress report. We did note that there was a violation issued for the valet operator for not having a BTR. However, a BTR was issued on April 8th. So we're recommending that the board hear from the applicant, any public testimony, and suspend the progress report at this time.
Okay, and just so everybody knows, this is primarily the Uchi Restaurant in Sunset Harbor. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Slavens. My address is 3800 Northeast First Avenue, Suite 200. I am here today before you regarding the 18 Sunset Project, which is located at 1759 Purdy Avenue. It's a recently completed building. It's got its first main tenant open, which is Uchiko. Hopefully some of you have tried it. It's awesome, so I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. And I do have a few slides just to walk you through what the building's looking like today and what our slated tenants are that will hopefully come online within the next year and bring us back for our second progress report. As you know, you've seen this project a few times. We've been before you 3 separate times, and the approvals morphed through the COVID era and finally landed on having ground floor retail, office space, and residential office on the top floor of the building. The tenants are lining up. The Lamborghini Lounge is going to be located on the south side of the building facing Purdy Avenue. That's intended to be a salon-style showroom of sorts. There won't be car sales or test driving or anything, but you will be able to have Lamborghini-branded experiences, look at special cars, and potentially order cars. Uchiko is the restaurant that's been open now since March. It's doing great. Again, I highly recommend you trying it out. It's the sister restaurant of Uchi and Wynwood. Kitson Yacht Group is a luxury yacht brokerage. GFL Environmental will be opening soon. That's an environmental and engineering firm. Aries Management is a financial office. Pretium Partners is also a real estate and financial office. Audemars Piguet is a watch company that will be having a residential office on the top floor, which is intended to be a place where you can experience the AP lifestyle, order a watch, take delivery of your watch, or just spend some time around the brand. And then Endeavor is a private family office / residence that will also occupy the top floor. These are some images of the finished building. As you can see, the park is in the foreground. This little stretch of Purdy Avenue has changed significantly in the last few months with both the completion of the building and the completion of the park. It's really looking amazing, and it looks a lot like the renderings that we've showed you over the years, so it's very nice for me to come up here and say that. Here are some various views from Purdy. You can see the lofts in the foreground and the Sardinia restaurant in the background. The finishings on the building are just being completed. There's wood accents, landscaping on the different levels, glass everywhere. The breezeway is complete, and that has the removable bollards that will allow for emergency access as needed. And Uchiko is on the left side of the screen. This is the roof view. It's also completed. With the pool and some entertaining area, and this area will be utilized mainly by the residential office spaces. This is the view from the Bay Road side, and you can see the city and the Venetian Causeway in the background. And then more examples of the finishings in the building. This is the breezeway. And that completes the progress report. I'm here to answer any questions you have. As Michael had noted, the valet had a little bit of a hiccup getting started with the opening of the restaurant, but everything has been corrected, and the building is in full code compliance at this time.
So Tracy, I know I asked you informally, but the Lamborghini space is an event space, so not a restaurant.
It's not a restaurant. It's not a car showroom. It's something in between. I call it a salon. It's a place for customers to enjoy the brand. They will offer you drinks, and you can touch cars, but that's basically it.
Okay.
It's not a car showroom for sales. It's not a restaurant or a bar.
So they're not trying to generate revenue there. It's mainly
It's a branding experience.
exposure. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And when's that supposed to open?
I think soon. I've seen the stickers on the windows. Lauren Goldstein, the project manager, is not here, so I'm not exactly sure, but I know that the construction on the interior is well underway. They have their permits, and they're actively working.
I guess, Mike, I raised this concern of blocking Purdy with traffic when it was first approved
Yes.
a year ago or however long ago. And my concern, obviously, like listen, valet hiccups happen. I'm not concerned about the BTR issue at all. That was fixed. But my concern is once, when there's a Lamborghini event at this plus Uchi, it's a really tight space. So
Yes.
there needs to be a plan, and I want to make sure we have oversight of the new traffic flow, especially because when we did the original traffic study, it wasn't based on, there being necessarily special events at this venue. There was going to be another restaurant. And so my thinking is to maybe, come back, at some point when Lamborghini's open, just to kind of check in.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that. And then the other thing that comes to mind, I'm not taking issue with this building per se, but it seems to me the benefits that we give to certain buildings to put as an incentive to give residential, to build residential in our neighborhoods. We give them incentives, and now it seems like this was a workaround where they have like a brand buys the residents, and they have, like, I don't know who they're gonna have residing in this premises, probably nobody, maybe clients, or maybe they just use it as an extension of their office. But in the future, when we're giving incentives for residential, I would think we want to make sure it's actually going to be used as residential and not as, I mean, in the presentation, they said it was going to be for, clients or visitors or clients or something like that. And I mean, that to me seems more like an Airbnb experience, which I know is allowed, but, and I know this is not Airbnb, but just something to think about when we're approving these things in the future is how do we put guardrails on it to make sure it's actually used as residential?
Well, I think, so this application was originally approved as a mixed-use building with residential above and ground floor commercial restaurant use. They did come back to the planning board, and the CUP was modified to add office space. So it did go through a process, and that was reviewed by this board to introduce that office use into the building.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is that there is still a residential element to this building. It wasn't completely removed.
Right, in order, because you have to have a certain percentage of residential in order to get the FAR bump to 2.0 in the district.
Right, this is my point, is that they do that, and then a luxury brand comes in and buys the residence and doesn't actually use it as a residence, they use it as a continuation of their office. And once the doors are closed and the locks are put on the doors, we have no knowledge or oversight as to whether there's an actual residence there.
I mean, they wouldn't be able to get licensed for an office use in that location if it's licensed as a residence or apartment use, so.
But it's split, like, so what I'm saying is that there's clearly now a residence, they're calling it a residence, but there's nobody residing in it. And my point in just saying is the whole idea is to increase well, they did it to increase the FAR, but the purpose of the incentives was to help the housing crisis that we have here in Miami Beach. And if we want to get serious about housing, going into the future, we just need to be, thinking about loopholes, so to speak, and making sure that they're closed off for the future projects that we incentivize.
Understood.
Is there anyone in chambers to speak on this? Anybody on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom with their hand raised.
Okay, so they recommend suspending. You want to have something,
So there is a condition in the CUP, I discussed this with Tracy to verify. It does say that when a BTR is issued for any use on the property, that the applicant has to come before the board for a progress report.
all right, so
that's
so
already.
Lamborghini will have to do that.
I'm gonna verify the condition, Tracy asked me to, but that's what's stated in the CUP now.
Okay.
And pending verification, they would require to come to the board for a progress report based upon that
All right, so
condition.
technically we can suspend this one and then
Yes.
the BTR will trigger a new requirement?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Could we though, if that's the case, if the BTR triggers a new visit to the planning board, great. If not, can we continue it and we can cancel it administratively if we are coming back anyways? Does that make sense? Because if it turns out that it doesn't require us to come back.
I think it's hard to add that requirement now. We already have a condition in the board that says when 75% of the building is occupied, they have to come back to the planning board over no less than a year from the initial one. So it's going to come back before the board before March of next year anyway, based upon that condition. So,
Okay,
and absent any violation.
So you're pretty confident a new BTR will require, okay.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, so then someone want to move to suspend this one, please?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is Planning Board File 240707, 281st Street, 231st Street, Washington Avenue, La Jardine Boucherie, and Genzo Omakase Road.
And the staff report begins on page 26 of the board packages. The board may remember this has been on the agenda for quite a while this year. Back on January 7th, the board approved a modification of the CUP in order to add the third floor of the existing building with a new restaurant component. That was approved by the board on January 7th. Later that month, on January 28th, a BTR was issued for the operation of the restaurant on the first and second floor of the building. On opening night, there was a live band performing in the courtyard, and they did receive a violation for that. We did send a clear letter to the applicant advising them to appear before the planning board for a progress report in March. In March, the board heard from the applicant and continued the progress report to a date certain of today. Since that time, as noted in our staff report, there was a violation issued to the valet operator for using unauthorized metered parking spaces. So we are recommending at this time that the board set a revocation hearing for the September 9th meeting, or at a minimum, continue the progress report to hear the outcome of the violation. I know that the applicant has stated that the valet operator is separate from the establishment, but we consider all violations issued to the property. That's why we are recommending the board hear from the applicant, any public testimony, and set a revocation modification hearing for September, or at least continue the progress report to the September 9th meeting. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Nicholas Rodriguez, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, Burkow, Riedel, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tapanez. So as Michael mentioned, we were back here in March, and as promised, there were no further events at the venue. This was just a one-time thing, a part of the opening. And since then, the restaurant has really been well received. I do have a short presentation and some slides that I'd like to walk you through, addressing some of the concerns that Michael has raised and that I've raised in the staff recommendation. So going to how the restaurant has been received, we received a really nice email from Gerald Posner, who was really involved in the preparation of the CUP. He's on the board at the Cosmopolitan. They really enjoyed it. They say it's one of the best things to happen to South of 5th in the 20 years that he's been living there. The restaurant has been really positively reviewed, and there's nobody claiming that the road is being blocked by the valet. There's no complaints about noise connected with this restaurant. Michael did have a site visit and confirmed that we are in compliance with the conditions of the CUP, requiring a noise limiter so you can crank the music on the system. It won't necessarily go up to a level that violates the CUP. Unfortunately, as Michael mentioned, there was a violation issued to the valet operator. We don't receive any notice of this. The first time we learned about it was when the staff report came out. So the owner doesn't get any notice, although the staff report does mention that it's connected to the property owner doesn't get any notice of this violation. We have no idea that's happening. As far as the characterization that the spaces were being used were not authorized, I think that's a mischaracterization of the violation. What we have here on the screen is that from April 1st to May 1st, there was a payment made to use those spaces. And we do have the valet operator here if you guys would like to hear from them. But I think the issue was more about the amount of time that the cars were in the valet spaces while patrons were coming to get their cars. And they've appealed that violation. And I think that's a completely separate issue from the operation of the restaurant. Valet operators have a license. They're subject to enforcement from code enforcement. And if they continuously violate their license, their BTR will be revoked. I don't think it's proper for the restaurant operator to be subject to the actions of a third party, albeit once we're made aware of these types of things going on, we are coordinating with our valet operator to make sure that there's no issues in the future. But just to be clear, there is no issue with the valet operation. They have properly rented the spaces, they paid for the spaces, and there's been no queuing or problems with the valet operations. And I know Michael didn't mention it now, but in the staff recommendation, there was a mention of some noise complaints. And I've spoken with Nadine, who's the general manager, and she's kind of tried to run down these noise complaints and figure out where they're coming from. Unfortunately, they're all coming from one person at the neighboring building. This person does not engage with the code enforcement officers. The code enforcement officers continuously come out. They don't hear music that's rising to the level of a violation. They're consistently playing ambient music. And unfortunately, there is a pretty long history of this particular person, using the system and falsely reporting things against her condo association, against the neighboring restaurant, to the point where there's even an entire YouTube channel that this person has started, claiming false things about the restaurant operator, even things like that the restaurant operator is distributing fentanyl and these crazy things that are obviously not true. I don't know why this person is saying that. Potentially, through the videos, they seem to have a problem with the restaurant operator's Macedonian descent. So we don't think that these noise complaints, which are not violations, by a person who's not credible and is not corroborated by any other evidence, any other complaints, should form the basis of any further revocation, modification, or progress reports. There's just simply not any evidence. As we mentioned, the sound limiter is installed. This is an email from our acoustic consultant who's out of Washington, D.C., confirming that our sound limiter is in place to keep music ambient within the property lines. And there's a pretty significant landscape buffer that the owner installed in between the two properties. And if you see here, there's even, there's no tables on that side. There's a significant space where there's no tables, no speakers. It's really hard to believe that there's any music being heard at the building next door. And even the code officers that have inspected the site agree that every time they go, they say, I walk to the neighboring property, I don't hear the music. So we don't think that those noise complaints are forming the basis.
Michael, can we confirm that it's all from one person, the complaints?
I don't have that information. We didn't raise that as a reason for us to continue or ask for a revocation modification hearing. I went to the site last week. We tested the music at the maximum volume, and it's well below even ambient levels, so we don't have any concern in terms of the level of music.
Number one, Mike, to the chair, I thought that you had recommended the revocation, and we thought that was excessive.
Oh, yeah, we're not recommending revocation.
I don't understand why we're continuing to call it a revocation. You know, a progress report, I understand, but I don't believe it's accurate to say that they're in any danger of their BTR for that third floor being revoked. And you are stating, right, in staff recommendation, revocation modification hearing.
Right, so our recommendation to set the hearing doesn't mean we're going to actually recommend that the CUP be modified or revoked.
I would make, first thing I do, if I'm allowed to, in a motion, is that I do not believe that this should be titled revocation. I don't think that it's appropriate, and I would like to either cancel or suspend that concept.
No, this is a progress report, but staff can still, the board can recommend whatever you
Yeah,
want.
that'll
but
be a
staff-
motion you'll
okay.
make.
Staff can make,
Through the chair, Mr.
Okay.
Marks, just on that point, I
Yes.
just wanted to make one more point here at
Yes,
the end.
please.
You know, the owner is going through a lending process right now, and we've been in touch frequently with the owner's lender and their counsel, and they really don't appreciate the difference between a progress report and a revocation
I can
modification.
understand that.
And it's exactly when these staff reports come out, it's really damaging to the owner and his ability to continue.
Yeah, we'll
operating
deal with
this
that with
business.
the motion at the end.
All right,
but-
and then, so the only other comment I would make is that I and my wife walked by there to go to a different restaurant on this Saturday at 1 PM, and I heard no noise walking from the sidewalk. So, I mean, I've heard nothing in the neighborhood, nothing reported to the neighborhood association. I think they have been a benefit to the community as stated by the closest credible neighbor, which is the
Cosmopolitan.
Cosmopolitan and its board member, Robert Posner. So I would just like to put my own
When we come
personal.
back, we're going to let you make a motion. Is there anyone here in chambers to speak on this? Anybody on Zoom?
there's nobody on Zoom with their hand raised.
Okay. Melissa?
Yeah, just clarification about the parking issue here. I just find it interesting how they come to the planning board and we approve these parking plans, and yet they have no connection to the valet parking. So like all of a sudden it becomes a valet parking issue. So
I think it's up to the applicant to make sure that the valet operator does
Correct.
give them notice of a violation, so that can be addressed.
So, yeah, I think that's an important part, is if you guys are getting the approval on this, and you guys are holding the responsibility, it's for the property owners to stay in touch with the valet service and to be informed of some of the issues you guys are having. That's not, it's not something you wash your hands away from once you guys, get the planning board to approve the parking plan.
I agree.
And I'll just echo Keith's comment. I've been there multiple times, whether I'm meeting or just stopping in, and I've never heard any excessive noise. And they've always been so gracious, and I think the place is a great addition. And I appreciate what you're saying about the lender. So that's just my 2 cents. So anybody else have any?
The only thing else to echo what Melissa said is just it's your responsibility, especially in projects where the valet parking lanes and the spaces, that's an issue in the application, especially in those types of projects. You guys retain ultimate responsibility of it, so I don't think there's no responsibility for the owner, but to me, it's an issue that seems to have already been fixed, and it's a non-issue, and it's completely unrelated to the music issue from before, so I'm in favor of, what is it, suspending?
You can conclude it if you want, conclude the
Yes,
process.
I'd like to make a
Yeah.
motion to suspend.
Beat me to it.
Do you have any
I'd
Do
second
you
that.
want to say suspend or conclude?
Any questions or
Doesn't
Oh,
matter.
yeah, comments, yeah.
Yeah, I just
Whatever
wanna
you
make
guys
sure.
want to do.
I just put
Should we
motion.
conclude or suspend? 'Cause there's
It's
a
the same
difference.
thing, you can.
Same thing?
The same
Okay.
thing, but I just want to make sure all the board members have had a chance.
No, I'm on board with that. I just know that, I mean, just moving forward, I know the reason you want to do that, obviously, are financial reasons. I don't know if we want to take those into consideration, but regardless, I don't think there's been an issue here since we heard it last. You know, obviously, if there's something that happens moving forward, you'll be back here. So I'm okay with suspending.
And through the chair, we do have an annual progress report requirement that's new, so we'll be doing one in writing. And when the third floor opens, we'll be back for a progress report for the third floor. So we're on the schedule to come back anyways, it's just maybe 3 months after the summer, probably.
Listen,
more than-
When's the Omakase?
They're working on their permits for the third floor now, so it's not ready yet, but, you know, hopefully 6 months or so, they'll be getting to work on that.
I'd just like to say that I have seen that website, and I concur with you. It's a little different. Also, I agree with Keith, and also Melissa, I'd like to see the valet somehow be tied in with the owner-operator so that everybody knows what's going on, because it's not right to penalize you if you don't know, but there needs to be some better communication and/or even a written agreement somehow.
Agree, and to the extent, we just wanted to clarify that the spaces were rented, right? It wasn't that the restaurant was using public parking spaces. I think whatever the violation is, it's not that the spaces weren't rented, they were rented.
Keith, you want to move it?
Yes, I'd like to move a motion to suspend.
Okay. A
I'll second it. Oh.
Melissa? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next progress report is planning board file PB 210448, 235 23rd Street.
And this was last before you for a progress report on April 8th. So from history of this application, on July 27th, a modified CUP was issued to Miami Loud Holdings LLC as the operator of the neighborhood impact establishment. Condition 2 of the CUP allows the submission of an affidavit to transfer approval to the new operator. That does require a progress report before the board, or scheduling that progress report prior to the applicant's submission and staff's acceptance of that affidavit. So that's why this applicant was before you on April 8th for the progress report. As noted in our staff report, there have been no new violations issued to the property since the April 8th meeting. However, we did know that there was one violation that was issued on March 6th that wasn't included in our prior staff report, and that was also issued for the valet operation. Because of this, we are recommending that the applicant hear testimony from the applicant in public and continue the progress report to the September meeting in order to hear the outcome of the special magistrate hearing, which is scheduled for July 3rd. That'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Mickey Marrero here on behalf of Baccarat, the operator of this venue. As Michael said, and you know, we can agree with his report, there have been no new violations against the operator since the April 8th meeting. We're closely monitoring. I've been in touch with Code. I was hoping they would be here. I don't think they are, but it's, you know, my impression from them is that the operation's been going well. They haven't had any issues. They haven't been getting complaints, no noise, no queuing, no issues, just like the prior application, and Nick and I huddled on this on Friday. We first found out that there had been a third-party valet violation in reading the staff report. And I think Ms. Latone is correct. There should be some way for, you know, for that to, because I would have looked into it. I actually went into the system, and the description of the violation isn't even uploaded. So it's a valet violation. Another lawyer for that company appealed it. I will be in touch with them, but we have no knowledge of how it happened, what occurred. My client wasn't even aware of it. But as far as things they control, they've had no issues. We continue to, you know, there was some hiccups in the beginning with the naming that caused the license to be suspended, which they were closed for a while, but that we got past that, working with Michael and staff. And we would ask that you just conclude the progress reports here because they've had 0 violations. It was pretty smooth for a few months prior, but now they've had nothing else, and we hope it continues that way. We'll be in touch with the valet company when we have a little more time just to figure out what happened, to be in communication with them, make sure it doesn't happen again. But we weren't even aware and still don't really know the facts of the violation, unfortunately.
So, question for you, I mean, you and staff. I think we dealt with this with some previous applicants that were in front of us, where we tied the operator to the landlord. So anytime an operator was noticed, the landlord started getting the notices. So can we do that for anyone associated with an address?
Yeah, I mean, we can ask code compliance to for sure do that.
And
Yeah.
I was actually gonna ask the Gazette same thing.
Yeah, just to make sure they're all.
All right, before we have board, are you finished?
For now, yes.
Anybody in chamber to speak on this? Anyone on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom with their hand raised.
All right, start with Keith.
Yeah, I just would, in this situation, because it's a new operation, because of the noise complaints and the seriousness of some of the complaints in March, my personal opinion is I'd like to hear back, and if there's no violations, suspended in September, but I'd like to continue this one.
It wasn't a noise issue.
We don't have any noise violations.
There was
It's
no
just the
noise
parking.
violations at all?
No, the first issue was the BTR, sort of the naming of the place.
Yeah, loud.
The owner, I'm sorry, and then the second issue is that just came up now was the valet operation.
And I can explain that first violation if you need more clarity. We
Yes, please.
discussed it last.
Yeah, the one on 322nd, I'd like to know.
So the one.
The measures imposed about alcohol and about 50 cents performance.
Oh, yeah, we discussed that one at the April meeting. What
Yeah,
happened
I was
was
here.
the timing of the notice, you have to notify the police department a certain amount of days before you have an act. And if you sign the act within that time period, you have to notify them immediately. They do this regularly. I'm copied on the emails 2 or 3 times a week whenever they have any, whether it's an artist, whether it's an athlete. And they've done events for the Club World Cup. They did an event with Ronaldinho. This past week, they always notify the police. This one, they missed it by a few hours, but they eventually did notify. We discussed it at the last planning board meeting. Nothing's happened since.
Okay.
Wait, Michael, sorry, reiterate what the staff recommends that it be brought back in September?
We're just recommending a continuance to the September meeting of the progress report.
Okay.
And we're happy to come back, but again, the only reason he's requesting that, and we discussed it, is because of the valet violation that we're not even handling. But, you know, just like the last one, that's the only thing open here. No other violations have been issued at all.
I think, again, because the new operation is the first, we can move on. I don't think we have to follow the progress report, and if there's something comes up again, you'll be back here. So I think, saving everyone a little time.
Any other?
Is that a motion?
All right, any other comments? All right, motion to,
Conclude the progress report?
yep.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're on to new applications. First one is Planning Board File 250740, 1681 Lenox Avenue.
And the staff report begins on page 52 of the board packages. This is the former Yard House location on Lenox Avenue. The applicant's requesting a CUP for the operation of a neighborhood impact establishment, including indoor entertainment. A total of 296 seats are proposed, with 263 seats indoors and 33 seats outdoors. The total occupant load, including back of house and performance areas, is 566 persons, and the proposed patron occupant content is approximately 400 people. The applicant is proposing indoor entertainment as part of a new restaurant operation, which will consist of live performances 5 to 8 per night. For comparison purposes, the former Yard House operations included approximately 403 seats, and the traffic study provided as part of that operation was analyzed for 445 seats. Now, as part of the application, the applicant is requesting the indoor entertainment operations from 11 a.m. till 2 a.m. We have no objection to that. They are requesting the outdoor operations Sunday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. and Friday and Saturdays from 11 a.m. and 2 a.m. Now, the applicant has done a good job in terms of isolating the location of the outdoor component, including restricting the outdoor seating to the southern half of the property, including moving the entrance from from the front of the property to the side. However, we are recommending some additional modifications to the hours of operation, including the exterior hours operating from Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Friday and Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Regarding the sound system, we are recommending that before a BTR is issued, that planning staff go out there with a sound consultant and test the sound system to make sure the sound and vibrations from the interior are not felt on the exterior, and we'll set the sound settings at that time. Regarding the exterior, we are recommending that the entertainment be limited to strictly the interior, and only the outdoor area have ambient background music with speakers also limited to the southern half of the property. We are recommending that the music stop Sunday through Thursdays at 10 p.m. and Friday and Saturdays at 11 p.m. We're also recommending no subwoofers on the exterior, and that a condition be put in place that outdoor music should not be plainly audible at a distance of 100 feet or more from the property. All these conditions are to protect the residential Palm View neighborhood to the north, and we are recommending that, as typical for any type of application like this, that a progress report be scheduled within 60 days of the property opening. Without turning it over to Monica for a presentation.
Before you go, first, it's great to see you. It's been a long time, but any disclosures, now this is a new application, any disclosures about communications?
Yeah, I talked to.
Okay, just state on the record what you're.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. I wanted to know more about the project, so that I just had a quick overview.
Spoke with the attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
Same with me, we emailed back and forth.
Okay. Jonathan? I received an email which I rudely did not respond to because I was too busy, but thank you.
No disclosure.
No disclosure.
Okay.
I got the email. Didn't
You're up.
respond.
Good morning, Board. Monica Enton, MHE Law, office at 7950 Northwest 53rd Street. I'm joined today by our team, our architect, Alyssa Kriplin from MacWork, designer Stephanie Crucian from Studio Munge. Our sound engineer is on his way. He got stuck in traffic, so I'm not sure if he will make it before the end of the meeting, but it's Sam Schroyer with Ed Duggar's office. My clients are Ultra Supper Club, which are comprised of Danny Soberano and Charles Cabuth. They extend their sincerest apologies for not being here today. It was their intention to be at all of their hearings. Unfortunately, Danny's son has been preparing for his wedding in Morocco for quite some time, and it was either move the wedding or move the hearing. I said, go to the wedding. I think I can do the hearing. So they do extend their regrets.
We need
Terrible
an invite.
that they didn't
We could-
cancel
we-
the wedding.
Yeah,
That's
we
not
could have showed up in
excusable.
Morocco, no problem.
I know, we could have done this over there. So Danny and Charles both have, each individually have over 50 years of experience in hospitality and service. They have a number of restaurants throughout Canada. And if I can, they have a number of restaurants throughout Canada that you can see on the board. They have high-end, high-scale, they're not fly-by-night restaurateurs. Locally, they have a Level 6 and a mall in Coconut Grove, Sophia in the Design District, and more notably here in Miami Beach, they own Biblos. These are all top-scale restaurants and endeavors. So we're looking at the Yard House property, which is located at 1681 Lenox Avenue. To the south of us is Lincoln Road, and across 17th Street is the Palm View neighborhood. Currently, this is what we're looking at. This is the Yard House venue. We have received design review approval for some other images you'll see shortly. But I wanted to point out this image because you can see that there is a kind of an indent in the front of the property that kind of sets back a little bit. That is the area for the outdoor courtyard. The entire rest of the area to the north will not have any seating, any speakers, any use. So I just wanted to be very clear on that. This is what, obviously, the exterior on the north looks like, so that you can see it is a solid concrete wall. And this is what was approved by the Design Review Board. Beautiful, stylistic, metal grating. We think it's a great addition aesthetically to the area. I think most importantly, is that we are removing, and you can see from this image, we are removing the main entrance that is currently located on the north end of the property, the northwest corner, which is nearest the residential community. We have completely relocated it to the south end of the property. And it actually faces the parking lot. It's not even on the street. You actually have to go through a path to get to the entrance. That will not only assist with noise, but also any queuing issues, any people standing around. So what is the concept? The concept is a very high-end, high-scale supper club, the type that made Miami Beach famous in the 50s and 60s. So they have, everything is curated from this veil. From the design of the screen to what you're going to see inside, it all comes from this allure of this lace veil that you see here. Entertainment. The entertainment is something they've taken seriously, and who is curating the entertainment? Well, it happens to be one of the executive directors for Cirque du Soleil for 17 years. Again, this is not fly-by-night. They are going to have events throughout the evening. The entertainment lasts between 8 to 12 minutes. There's about between 5 and 8 during the night, so that there's no specific time, there's no queuing, there's no waiting for one event. It's ongoing throughout the evening. We have a couple of stages. We have a stage in the middle of the property. It's a small stage where people can come on and off. We expect that as a good Cirque du Soleil type style project, they're not only going to be going from stage to stage, but also walking around the venue. I know the client doesn't like this, but we call this the Muppet Wall. And if you are of a certain age, you will remember the Muppet Wall. This is what we're looking at for entertainment. It is only inside. There is no entertainment proposed for the exterior. The exterior, we've also added double door vestibules to going into the courtyard, as well as along the south. The courtyard, you can see here, this is just, we're just looking at landscape and an idea for tables, but the courtyard is actually less intense than what was previously there by Yard House. Yard House had 48 tables on the exterior. We're proposing 33. And again, furthest away from the venue. We absolutely have no problems with what Michael talked about with subwoofers. That was our plan, to have a limiter, which would restrict sound on the exterior only to background, only to ambient level. The goal here is, while you're waiting for that seat inside, while you're waiting to see the entertainment inside, you have a place you can have a drink, you have a place you can have a snack, while you're waiting to get indoors, because really this place is about the indoors. It is not about that courtyard. No matter how beautiful they make it, you're there kind of just waiting to get to that next level. So this is what Yard House looks like now, so that you can see just in general what the amount of tables. And you can see here that we have a lot less seating. Yard House was approved for, I believe it was 403 seats by the planning board. They ultimately ended up with 397 seats in their business tax receipt. We are proposing a total of 296, more than 100 less than what they had indoors. So we do believe that we will have a much less impact on the neighborhood. Here's a side-to-side comparison where you can actually see the number of seats that we are proposing for this venue. We actually have reached out to the neighborhood. We have support from the Lincoln Road Bid, who I know is here. We did reach out to the neighbors along 17th Street on the north side of 17th. While they like, I think, the general concept of the project, they have expressed issues with sound. They proposed conditions that we responded to. They didn't like our responses, but nevertheless, we had agreed to reduce our hours of operation on the exterior to 11 p.m. during the week. We do believe that should service the neighborhood altogether. So we accept all of staff's conditions, with the exception of the weekends. We would like to remain open in the exterior till 2 a.m. And we don't understand the need to limit music an hour before closing. Even If the whole purpose here is to create ambiance while you're waiting to get inside, we would request that limiting the hours of music before closing be removed from the order. With that, I will open ourselves up to any questions that the board may have and limit time for rebuttal.
Okay, I have a preliminary question. Is this part of the Inc. Entertainment Group?
It is part of Inc.
All right.
Entertainment.
So I am one of their lawyers, and I didn't realize until today. Do I need to kind of withdraw myself?
I did not know that.
Do you represent them now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a relationship with some of the partners, and we do a lot of their corporate filings and.
So then I would recommend that you recuse, because a vote on this matter would, in order to the private gain or loss of your client,
Okay.
which is.
Can I sit here, or do I have to leave the room?
Technically, you have to leave the room.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And we'll give you a form.
Okay.
All right, I guess I'll take it over. All right, do we have any comments from the public?
Yes, we do have we do have one person with their hand raised on Zoom. John Courtney.
Hi, John. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. So my name is John Courtney. I'm calling on behalf of the Palmview Neighborhood Association, and we represent the single-family neighborhood across the street from this site. I think, as you all recognize, this is a proposal for an amplified entertainment establishment. It's just 150 feet from an historic single-family neighborhood. And while we're supportive of new concepts in our area, we believe the planning board has a responsibility to create very clear accountability when an operator is proposing to put such a high-impact establishment on the very edge of their zoning district. And if the operator is willing to accept accountability to control their noise pollution and potentially unruly patrons, then we're very supportive of the project. And we've read staff's recommendations and believe they do enough to protect the neighborhood while not infringing on the operator's plans. The most important recommendation is the use of the plainly audible standard rather than the impossible to enforce ambient standard. Unfortunately, as the operator has already mentioned, we have not been able to find agreement with them over the last couple months, although it does seem like maybe now before the board, they are willing to accept these conditions, which we're encouraged by. Lastly, I just want to say that, I think we should let the operator do whatever they'd like on the site, but just hold them accountable. And if they fail to live up to the promises they're making or fail to control their noise, we just don't want our neighbors to be the ones who suffer, and that there is a route for recourse and for holding them responsible going forward. So we'll hope you'll accept all the recommended conditions from staff. And I also hope that if the board engages in extended negotiations with the applicant today, that you'll just give me the benefit of speaking again to represent the interests of the neighbors. Thank you.
John, had you had any issues with the past operator in your neighborhood?
No, not with Yard House. Although I will say, I think the idea that it's just a very different type of establishment, right? Yard House had ambient music outside. And it was a neighborhood place, right? It was like a sports bar, really, is what it became over time. So I think it's just a very different type of operation. But no problems with having operators in this site. I think we all like having things close to the neighborhood, as long as they're being held accountable for their noise.
Hi, John. I got your email a couple months ago, and I had a question about the hours that the Yard House had. Do you remember what those were?
I do not know, but they were not like a late night establishment. Like I said, it was usually, they might stay open late to play like West Coast basketball games or something like that. But I think in practice they were closed quite early.
Okay, and do you feel like 33 seats lessened from, I think it was it 48 or something like that, seats, would make a difference in the sound? What if there was some baffling put up to allow them to keep their hours? Or
yeah, I think the hours, I agree. Yeah, I think that I'm less, if they want to have ambient music outside, the number one concern is that they're just held responsible for any noise pollution.
Right.
But I think it's important too that I think there's sometimes what happens is there's a lot of promises to put up baffling, and I'm glad the applicant's no longer claiming that the screens are going to be enough to contain the sound.
Yeah,
I think just whatever it takes. Yeah, I think whatever it takes to contain the sound is what the applicant should be held accountable to, not some sort of potential, like not using, for example, a noise engineer, a sound engineer to get approval for anything, and then whether that turns out to be true or not ends up being on the neighborhood and not on the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you all.
Is there anyone else on Zoom?
Here we have another caller, Mitch Novick.
Hi, Mitch. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes. Good morning. Mitch Novick, 37-year resident of the Entertainment District. I appreciate what I heard from Ms. Enton regarding double vestibule doors. That should be the standard and model followed throughout Miami Beach. Noise must always be contained to the property lines, and I wish this applicant well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch.
If I may quickly address one of the questions that came up during Mr. Courtney's speech, the hours that the BTR were for Yard House was 2 a.m.
Thank you.
We have nobody else on Zoom, so I guess we can take
Public.
testimony in chambers.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Annabelle Yopes, Executive Director for Lincoln Road. I'm here to share the support, obviously, of the bid behind this applicant, that this is exactly the type of operator that Lincoln Road needs right now. It really will spur the business that we need, not only for our residents to have a quality place to go to, but of course, our visitors. I respectfully request that the applicant proceed with the hours that they're proposing. They are a quality operator. Obviously, they have a restaurant already on Miami Beach. They have 2 in Miami, and they've never had any complaints. So I feel that they can accomplish what they say they're going to do and provide the service, the level that Miami Beach would absolutely enjoy. So we're here to support, and we want to move this project forward as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question for
Madam
Chair?
I wanted to ask about, I'm concerned, I love the prefab, the laser cut
Yes.
wall, but having been in retail, I don't think this is gonna stop any sound. What can we do to, some kind of baffling, some kind of noise attenuation that's gonna, because this is beautiful, but I don't think it's gonna stop the
So
sound.
you're correct. It is difficult to baffle music outside. That's why from the beginning, we always said this would only be ambient music. There is no intention to have anything above ambient level music
What do you
in the
consider
area.
ambient? Because what I'm looking at is.
Where
go ahead.
you can have a conversation without the music
Conversational, okay.
without the music interrupting. Also, we are not proposing to have any speakers. As Michael actually indicated in his report, that was based actually on the plans. We have no intentions of having any speakers further north of where the actual restaurant seating is, which is more than 210 feet away from the nearest residential area.
Okay.
We will also have interior landscaping within that screen. While not a perfect baffling device, it does have some absorption. And in the application that you just heard just a few minutes ago, you had a property that was directly adjacent, one from the next. They had a hedge. And I believe Mr. Marks even said as he was walking down the street, you couldn't hear their music, you couldn't hear their noise. Why? Because it is ambient level music. And that's exactly what the client is proposing for this case.
I would
It's
like
also-
to add, since I was mentioned, our neighborhood association, and we do this with all of our outdoor speakers. I know this gentleman said he likes the clearly audible, but what we've done successfully, whether it's Catch or that restaurant, is ask the operator to put into their obligations, into their VTR, that they will have it monitored at no higher than 65 dB. It does work. I noticed in the sound report, which I do look at because I think it's valuable, the ambient sound, even on weekends, is about 65, 66. So if you do not exceed the sound around, then all you're left with is talking. I just strongly recommend, I don't know if we can put that into it, but I do think they need a sound limiter at 65 dB on the outside. The other question I would have when we were talking, if this is for queuing, I have experience with restaurants near our area, in which people tend to linger past closing. Wouldn't 1 PM be appropriate? Because why would anyone be there after 1 PM if they're going inside?
I think Mona's doesn't object to the outdoor conditions, closing at 11 PM,
Correct.
outdoor seating during the week, and midnight on the weekends.
Midnight.
do.
But
We
if
do
we were
on the
going to
weekends.
push it, we should push it no farther than 1 PM.
And I would agree to, and we did have a concern regarding the 12 AM on the weekends, Michael. We would agree to 1 AM. We think that's reasonable, as you indicated, Mr. Marks. It is basically a use it's kind of a staging area before you go into your table. So we would not have an objection to closing it at 1 AM. What we do have concerns about is shutting the music down early, because that is the only ambient that you have outside. It is background music. It is the plainly audible standard that is used in the code. And again, that is what was used in the other project that you heard it earlier, and there were no issues. We will have a sound limiter, and the sound system will be reviewed by staff before we have our license. So they will set whatever with our sound engineer, they'll figure out what the right levels are and limit it to that sound so that we don't have that impact.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put a decibel number in here because it's going to vary depending on where you're on the property. I think we have the standard of not to interfere with normal conversation. We're going to test that on site, and then also the requirement that it not be plainly audible 100 feet from the property. So that will be tested on the site. Whatever that decibel ends up being will be set, but we're not going to put decibels in the code.
We did that as a homeowners neighborhood association, different than the city, and I do understand that.
But we do think that if the board, as you suggested, were wanting to extend the outdoor hours to 1 o'clock, we strongly would recommend that the music stop at midnight.
Just before we continue the comments, is there anyone else here in the room that was going to speak? No, you're good. All right. All right. Let's go down the questions. Scott, did you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I know in our email exchange, you mentioned that one of the things you told the neighbors, you would say that noise wouldn't be plainly audible after 11 PM, 150 feet from the
Right.
property. But you're okay now with what the city's proposing, 100 feet?
We were
plainly
always okay with 100 feet. It was the neighbors who proposed 150. So we were acquiescing to the 150. It didn't make sense to me that 150, since 100 feet is the requirement, and 11 PM is the regulations. We agreed to those conditions. They just had more conditions than just the plainly audible at 150.
So as you heard, I mean, I think that's, as Michael said, that's probably the most important thing, that noise or any sound can't be heard.
Absolutely.
Can't be plainly audible 100 feet from the property, regardless of what time it is or where the noise is coming from. Just one clarification, Michael. In FA, you say, in all outdoor areas, sound from the sound system shall not be plainly audible 100 feet from the property. I assume that applies for any noise that might come from the inside of the property as well.
What we're saying, for the standard for outdoors is that any time at the property line, the music and vibrations should not be felt outside. Now, it's going to be hard to test that if you have music outdoors and indoors at the same time. That's what we'll test at site conditions to make sure.
I mean, I guess maybe that could be rephrased then, that just any sound from the property, regardless of where it comes from, shall not be plainly audible 100 feet from the property.
Yeah, that's the intent.
Doesn't
I
it
think
say
you
that?
You have to be careful though, because I mean, there's no way to really, any sounds like people
From the
speaking. Well, I mean, you're talking about like sound system.
Any sound, well, even any sound from the property.
That's why
Well,
I think baffling.
it's
gonna be
difficult
so
because if there's
baffling.
one
We could say
guy,
any music from the property.
Right, okay.
Okay.
And the way the order is drafted is it's any sound from the sound system. I would recommend keeping it that way, yeah.
No, I just want to be sure that it applies.
I don't anticipate this to be like a nightclub venue where you have loud thumping music that you know is going to break your eardrums. I don't anticipate that that's what they're going for here, and they shouldn't be going for that. So, you know, anything above ambient levels entertainment, there's a whole range of what that level is, and we'll test that on site to make sure it's consistent with what they want to have in terms of their volume, but also ensuring that it's not heard or felt outdoors.
So just so I can understand, you're okay with closing outdoor operations at 12 a.m. on weekdays and then the weekends 1 a.m. and you don't agree to, you don't think it, I personally, I don't think it makes sense to cut off the music before that.
Right.
Why?
Yeah,
Right,
so-
okay, right.
Mr. Frieden,
No,
I
it,
agree with
it just, it creates an awkwardness, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Lincoln
the other
Road.
thing is if we're
Right.
enforcing the 100 feet barrier, then it doesn't really matter that extra hour to the residents because they're beyond that 100 feet. And so, the other thing is they're coming back, when is this planning to be open? I mean, what's the
as soon as
projected-
possible.
Okay, so are you is it ready, or is it like?
No, we
all
have
the
to, we have to
permits?
wait for this. We had to wait until Design Review Board approved in May in
Ah.
order to to start design plans. But yes, now if we get the approval from this board, then we can move forward with the application.
Yeah.
With respect to the hours, while we did request 12 a.m. During the week, we did agree to the neighbors that we would close at 11 p.m. during the weekdays.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
sort of
we did
recommendation.
agree with this, we actually agree with staff's recommendation
Okay,
of
so-
11 p.m. during the week. We would request the 1 a.m. that Mr. Marks mentioned on Friday and Saturday, but we would request that the music be allowed to play until that closing time.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
and I
fine with
support
that.
that.
The only thing I was just gonna say is, because I know you have to come back 60 days after you open.
Correct.
And it depends, we've seen the situations where somebody opens in the summer and they're super slow and it doesn't really, it's not real, it's not representative of what's actually gonna be happening there, and so, but it sounds like you guys aren't opening this summer.
No,
anyways.
I
Yeah,
don't
so-
anticipate that.
I'd be lucky for
All right.
Basil.
And just for the neighbors to be listening, part of the process, who are listening, that part of the process is they do come back after they open, and so that will be your opportunity for accountability. If there is something that's bothering you, or if you have complaints, at that time, you can come and speak to the planning board.
I'm in support of it. I think the music should stay through closing time. I think what we haven't spoken about enough is the reduced capacity that's going to be on the locations. Hopefully, there should be a net positive for the area. It'd be great to get some vibrancy back, to Lincoln Road and adjacent streets. And it seems to be a different offering and more of an upscale offering, so I'm excited for it. And, to Jonathan's point, hopefully the residents understand that you all will be coming back, shortly after opening, so we'll be able to monitor how the hours, how the music, how the programming actually impacts the neighboring residents.
Well, congratulations on the project. It is actually beautiful, and I think it'll be a huge improvement for that building and for that neighborhood and the kind of places we want to see on Lincoln Road. And being from Canada, I'm familiar with a lot of your restaurants in Toronto and the ones you have here in Miami. So I think you guys are very credible operators. There's been just very classy places. I think this is a great project for us to have. And just like the other board members, I think we're all on board for giving you guys the hours of ambient music with your hours of operation for outside.
Thank you.
And I concur with Melissa. I was very worried about this space remaining vacant for a while. It's in a very unique place on Lincoln Road. I'm thrilled. This is exactly what we need. And I also concur with my colleagues on the hours and operations. I just would caution you about adding a little bit of, I just don't think metal screens with some plants and things are going to do it. But 33 seats as opposed to what you had, no noise. Are the doors open by any
No,
chance?
so the doors that currently exist for Yard House, those will be emergency exit only. So those doors will never open unless there's an emergency. The doors that will access the courtyard is another double door vestibule.
I saw
So
that.
it'll trap
Right.
sound before
Okay.
it escapes
Okay,
into the courtyard.
fantastic. That's it. And congratulations, because Lord knows we need it.
Does that someone want to make a motion to move it?
Make a motion.
All right.
I'll second.
But
The motion is to modify, the only change is to modify that
1 a.m.
the 1 a.m.
And,
on
and that the
Friday.
music should remain through.
Okay,
And it can say on.
understood.
Correct.
Thank you, board.
Who was the second on the motion?
Oh, initial second.
Oh, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Good luck.
Shall we re-invite Brian back in?
Yes.
He left.
All right, let me text him, so you can come back.
We could have called Brian as a witness. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, pleasure. Nice seeing you, Lyle.
Did you lace this? Did you lace this? Good job. Still.
We survived without you, Brian.
We do well.
We did okay. Everyone's happy.
Alrighty, last item on the agenda is Planning Board File 250754, 1601 West 24th Street Lot Split.
And this staff report begins on page 67 of the board packages. So the owner of the largest lot within the study area, which is 1525 West 24th Street, is the contract purchaser for the new lot that will be created by this proposed lot split. As proposed, the new single-story structure complies with the minimum requirements to be considered a single-family home, although it has been designed as an accessory structure to the primary residence located at 1515 West 24th Street, with the front of this structure facing the adjacent lot. Because of this, the new structure is well below the maximum lot coverage and unit size allowed for a new single-family home. The new home will be required to be reviewed by the DRB, and as noted in our staff report, there are some concerns with their frontage elevation facing the street, which is comprised only of 2 garage doors and blank walls. So we do believe that that elevation will have to be further developed as part of the DRB application, but we are supportive of the application and are recommending approval of the lot split. Without turning it over to Mr. Morero for the presentation.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Mickey Marrero here on behalf of Patrick Dovigi, the owner of these properties. With me today is my colleague Rob Alvarez, and from Kobe Karp's office, Taylor Schumacher, project architect. We get the presentation. Can we get the presentation up on the? Thank you. So here's the neighborhood, as you can see, and as Michael mentioned, this is essentially it's just a double lot, one of the largest lots in the area. The majority of the lots are singular lots at about the 12,000 square foot range. Our property is 25,000 and change. If you can move to the next slide. So again, these are the proposed lots, bringing them in line with, just going back to the platted lot lines, bringing them in line to just about everybody else in the neighborhood at about 13,000, 12,000 square feet each. These are the surveys of the resulting lots that you see in your packet. Here's the staff analysis that we agree with. It was consistent with our analysis. Our future lots are consistent as not only with the average lot size, but the median lot size, and our proposed unit area will be well below the median in the area, so we meet all those standards. Here's the massing study that was done. You can see even at the maximum, we're still consistent and compatible with the homes in the area. Again, just more of the unit size projections on what the homes will look like. We meet lot coverage. Again, I'm just going through this quickly because it's pretty straightforward, but I'm happy to answer any questions. This is a massing context of the area. You can see our proposed home will be well in line and not overshadowing any of the other remaining lots. In fact, our client owns that one larger property which will remain and not be touched, but the resulting homes will be well compatible with the smaller lots. There is some limited demolition. I think it's mainly a pergola and some other small structures that will occur to bring the property into compliance. You can see the areas proposed for demolition there. And again, I think we saw this before, but just an outline of the proposed new construction. As Michael mentioned, we have submitted DRB applications for the new structures. Those are the new structure that's currently in process. We are making minor changes, as Michael alluded to address some comments from staff and some changes that the owner has requested. So we'll probably be going in a couple months to DRB and address those issues. But here we're just discussing the split, and we believe and agree with staff's conclusion that we meet all the criteria, fall well below the median and average sizes. And again, this just reverts the lots back to how they were platted. We're not creating new lot lines. It's just the same resulting lots. And I think with that, we can conclude, yeah. Happy to answer any questions. Taylor's here, should you have any architectural questions. But we do think it's a pretty straightforward lot split.
Anybody in chambers other than you to speak? No? Anyone on Zoom?
There's nobody on Zoom with their hand raised.
Okay. Any questions from any board members?
One question. Just what's the intention, meaning you split it up and do all the
So,
two homes?
so our client actually purchased a lot across the street too. It's got a lot of family moving into the area. So that secondary lot will be used, as of now, by the family, but it will meet all the requirements of a singular home, and we'll go through a DRB process. The remaining other half of that double lot, he'll convey to a new owner, and they'll just develop a new home there with a new family. But for now, that additional structure adjacent to the larger home will be used by the family, but they want to keep the option open of potentially, selling that as well.
Got it, okay.
Elizabeth, Melissa?
No, no comments.
Motion,
Someone want to make a motion?
motion to
I'll
approve.
motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All righty.
Thank you.
Randy?
You want to stay and chat a little bit longer, or?
Well, I'm just saying, Mr. Chair, I think we have a record time here for a planning board meeting, as far as I can tell. But anyway,
Board agenda.
thank you all. Have a
All
great
right,
day.
and then
Mr.
Michael,
Chairman,
just
I'm sorry, just because I stepped away for a second. Did the board take disclosures?
we didn't. Did anyone have a disclosure on this?
No? Okay.
And just while we're on the record, so you're gonna let us know because I think you're gonna be missing three
Right now,
members in
with
July.
three missing, I'll let the board members know if we need to have a meeting based upon any proposed code amendments.
Okay. And if
But
we
we'll
don't
not be
have a
able to
meeting,
hear.
the next meeting will be September.
Correct. If we don't have the meeting on July 1st, the next meeting will be September 9th.
Okay, all right, then we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's.